Hello, I'm Pastor Jennifer. This week's lesson from Salt and Light comes from the book of Exodus. Now, Exodus is a major book for understanding the Bible. Please don't pluck out this one episode without having a sense for the whole book. To get a sense for Exodus as a whole, if I were teaching this lesson, I might send folks a link to the Bible Project videos of Exodus. You can find them for free at bibleproject.com, or you might just watch them yourself. There are 2 videos on Exodus. Each one is 6 or 7 minutes long. Another option for helping folks get a sense for the whole book of Exodus would be to spend, maybe 5 minutes of your time together paging through the book of Exodus in your Bibles while looking at the headings. And you might make a couple quick lists of major events. I would use 2 columns, maybe on a whiteboard or chart paper. The first one titled Exodus from Egypt, chapters 1 to 18, and the second titled Mount Sinai, chapters 19 to 40. Basically, it's important to realize that this episode is near the end of the book. Moses is coming down the mountain a second time. He's carrying the second set of stone tablets. If you asked somebody last week to research Mount Sinai, also called Mount Horeb in the Bible, then be sure to let them share what they learned. I'd suggest having them take, 5 minutes to share something from their research and thank that person for contributing to your class time together. Now, as you get into Exodus 34, 29 to 35, you'll notice some repetition. There are many repetitions in biblical narrative, and they happen at different scales. Sometimes a word is repeated several times in a short passage. For example, in this passage, there are 3 references to Moses' shining face in verses 29, 30, and 35. The shining face is important. It's worth repeating. The whole episode is also a repetition. The first time Moses was on Mount Sinai and received the 10 Commandments on 2 stone tablets, he descended the mountain to find that Israel had built a shiny golden calf to worship. He was so mad, he broke the tablets. So how might that previous event influence how we read this repeat performance? The whole business about Moses' shining face is really captivating to me. In this story, Moses spends significant time in the presence of God, not only on the mountain, but later in verses 34 and 35 as well. This might be an opportunity to talk in your group about when and where we devote time to being in God's presence. Moses' time with God results in a new set of tablets and a shining face. His shining face has an effect on everybody at the foot of the mountain. Initially, they are afraid. You might ask your group, when you have intentionally spent time with God, have you noticed any after effects when you return to ordinary life? The purpose statement at the beginning of this lesson is to appreciate how being in the presence of God allows us to glimpse God's glory and share that glory with others. In the Connect and Transform section of the lesson, participants are invited to reflect on their experiences of baptism and other significant spiritual events in their lives. I strongly recommend that you reserve time for sharing these kinds of experiences with each other during your time together. These kinds of encounters with God may be more common than you think. If your group's discussion sometimes becomes a free-for-all, or if it's likely that a few people will do most of the talking and some won't speak at all, consider using a circle process with a talking piece for this conversation about personal encounters with God. That way, everyone has a turn to speak or to pass, and you could use something that shines for your talking piece. One way to create an atmosphere where folks feel comfortable enough to share is to begin by sharing one of your own encounters with God. If you're nervous about doing this, That's okay. Plan what you will say. You could even read it if that made you feel more comfortable. Authentic sharing about how we've experienced God builds up one another in faith. And that's part of the reason that you agreed to lead a session like this. Finally, one of the New Testament allusions to this passage is in 2 Corinthians 3 and 4. Just as Moses talked with God and experienced God's glory, people who have encountered Jesus Christ are being transformed to reflect God's glory in the world. Whether or not you have time to get into this amazing passage from the New Testament, if you include a conversation about encounters with God, I would urge you to close your session by reading 2 Corinthians 3:18. And all of us, with unveiled faces, seeing the glory of the Lord as though reflected in a mirror, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, the Spirit.